Catching lung cancer early could now be as easy as coughing in a cup. A new at-home screening test helping doctors determine next steps in days rather than months.
Yeah, this is big. Our 9 News medical expert, Dr. Payal Kohli, joins us this morning. Thanks for coming in.
Hi, good morning, guys.
So first, the number of deaths due to lung cancer is so large, and part of it is because of late detection, right?
Very much so. So if you think about our lungs, they can hide cancers really well because there's so much lung tissue that a small cancer may not present with any symptoms until it's quite advanced. So lung cancer is actually the leading cause of cancer-related deaths and takes about 1 million lives. And we really feel in the medical community, if we can diagnose it earlier, get smarter about screening, because we're not very good at screening, that we could actually save a lot more lives.
What do we do right now in terms of screening?
Yeah, so we kind of pick out who we think is high risk. So people who smoked, people who have a strong family history, people who might have been exposed to something. And it used to be chest x-rays, but now we actually do what's called low-dose CT scans. So very low-dose radiation, but we check them annually looking for tumors basically in the lungs. And then if something comes out positive, they might have a test called a bronchoscopy, where they put a camera inside your lungs and kind of look around, scrape some of the airways. Or they might have a test called a biopsy, which is obviously very invasive, where they actually put a needle into the lungs and take a piece of tissue.
What's scary about this is there's a lot of people who are diagnosed with lung cancer who have never smoked before, don't have anyone in their family who's ever smoked, and they can be diagnosed as well.
Very, very true. And in fact, if you have a CT scan for something else or a heart CT scan, a lot of times I'll pick up a random nodule. So you'll see a little ditzel on the lungs and you don't know, is it just a healed infection? Because sometimes we get some kind of infections and viruses and they can leave a little bit of scar tissue in the lungs, or is it the beginnings of a cancer? And then we have to have essentially another scan. So what's cool about this test is that it uses sputum. So sputum is our phlegm. Our airways create phlegm and mucus to clear out all the secretions, and it's in all parts of our lungs if you think about it. And the other nice thing about sputum is it travels really well. So if you leave sputum on the shelf for 3 days, you'll still have about a 60% viability of the DNA. So if you are found to have a nodule, you can cough up this phlegm. You collect it over 3 days, put it in a cup, overnight it to the lab, and they can run a test on it called flow cytometry, where they look for markers of cancer cells, of hundreds of different types of cancer cells. They can tell you with a pretty high accuracy whether or not you have lung cancer.
Wow.
Speaking of accuracy, what are we talking about in terms of that?
Yeah, so overall the test has about an 88% accuracy, which is pretty good, but it's got a 92% sensitivity. So that means if 100 people had lung cancer, this test would pick up 92 out of 100 of them. Now that means it's missing 8 out of 100 of them, so we can't completely hang our hat on the test, but I think it's a really good non-invasive way when somebody has a nodule to sort of know very quickly whether or not it might be something that you need to move faster on. Of course, you would have to follow this up with a biopsy to confirm that it really is cancer.
I think a big part of this is that it's non-invasive, right? It's easy
Right.
just to cough in a cup, which is a lot different. The other part of this is money. This could save the patients a lot of money too.
It could save the patients and the healthcare system, because a lot of times we end up chasing people that we don't need to chase with other tests, with other, bronchoscopies, with the biopsies, and similarly the ones that we would need to chase more aggressively and earlier, we sometimes wait because by the time they get in for the biopsy. So they did an analysis in an economic journal that says it could save several $1,000s.
Wow.
If we start using this in the high-risk patients. Now, I want to be clear, I don't think every single person is going to be coughing into a cup and taking out their sputum and sending it if they're low risk, because that would lead to too many false positives. But instead of just using CT scans, could we also start looking at sputum, especially in those that are high risk, or perhaps in those that are high risk with a nodule? That would be where we go. And some of the analyses that they've done actually have said that if we start looking in high risk patients, we could save 20% more lives.
Wow.
Wow.
We could have a mortality reduction
That is a
of
big
20%.
difference.
Yeah.
Well, that is awesome.
Yeah.
We appreciate you letting us know all about this. Thank you very much, Dr. Kohli. By the way, you can find all of Dr. Kohli's appearances at 9news.com/Dr. Kohli.